Hello, welcome to Tuesday Live on the network service of the NTA. Omini Oden is my name. Peace and unity have been universally accepted as ingredients for development of nations. The absence of peace and unity, analysts say, spell doom and often give rise to civil disturbances, insurgency, conflicts and other violent reactions. Analysts are quick to say that countries like Syria, Libya and Somalia could trade places for peace due to the devastating effect of conflicts and violence have had in these countries. Nigeria in recent times is faced with challenges that include calls for restructuring, agitations, hate speech, which undermine national unity and peace. The government and schools of thought have condemned in strong terms such actions and advised Nigerians against breaking the bond of unity and peace, which is an imperative to the progress of the country. They believe that Nigeria's unity is non-negotiable and that those calling for separation are doing so based on selfish reasons. Where did Nigeria veer off the path it set out at independence? How welcoming are calls on people not to mistake freedom of speech with hate speech? What are the best solutions for a united and peaceful country to consolidate on developmental gains? Answers after this background report by Kolo Muhammad.
Nigeria, like other countries of the world, looks to peace times to take its economy and citizens towards the path of prosperity. Checking with history, however, reveals Nigeria made the most of its current progress during peace times. For the other times, however, the spoils are there, serving as visual signposts, telling the story of the cost of war. Nigeria's resilience, evident in its ability to restart its journey towards progress after so many needless clashes and political unrest, perhaps should make us pause to ponder and consider advancing those things that unite us while toning down divisive tendencies.
I think that what we need to do more in our country is to live the truth in the African saying that if you want to go far, go with the people. If you want to go fast, go alone. This country has reached a point where we need to conceptualize how far we want to go. And I think we can go very far, which means that a lot of consultations must be, carried out across various blocks in this country so that we can be sure that Nigeria knows its destination.
The Civil War remains a towering reminder of the nation's darkest moments. Once again, Nigeria's resilience pulled the country back together after the war. One of the major players in the Civil War summed up the need to give enduring peace a chance this way.
So a lot of people will say, the first one, yes, I led the first one. I don't think a second one is necessary. We should have learned from that first one.
As a people, we all have roles to play in ensuring peace and unity in Nigeria.
For peace also to reign, there must be righteousness, justice, equity and fair play. And that's come to all of us, beginning from those who are ruling us, those who are in the leadership position. They must ensure justice. They must ensure righteousness and equity.
While the security agencies work hard to contain insurgency, militancy, and other forms of crimes, a new wave of incitement has been hatched, and that is hate speech. Experts have identified hate speech as a capable instrument to start civil, social, and religious unrest.
People should understand that anybody that is preaching to you to hate somebody or to go and kill somebody or to go and cut the neck of somebody, that one is your enemy. Do not see him as your leader. It's not somebody to be followed. It's not somebody to be respected. The moment you hear somebody telling you like that, what he's trying to do is to destroy your life and to destroy your future.
At 57, with all the challenges, Nigeria's economy remains systemic in Africa and one of the fastest growing in the world. We can achieve more together in peace and unity. Let this part of our national anthem be our creed.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Consolidating in Nigeria, that will be the focus on the program tonight. As usual, at some point the lines will be open and you'll be allowed to make calls, either through direct call or through tweets. And if we put you through on the call, just make your issue, make your point, and go straight to the point. And at this point, you need to turn down the volume of your television set to avoid the hallback. Tonight, we'll be going to Port Harcourt, but first of all, let me start from Abuja. From my far right, I have Professor Awalu Yadudu, Professor of Law and former Presidential Advisor on Legal Matters. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Tajuddin Mohammed Bello Adigu, Imam Community Mosque, Wuse Zone 3, FCT Abuja. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Emma Isong, Bishop and National Publicity Secretary, Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria, founder, Christian Central Chapel International, Grand Patron, Nigeria Union of Journalists, Zone F. It's my pleasure to welcome you to TuesdayLive.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Nigerians.
All the way from Port Harcourt, we have joining us Chief Mike Ahamba, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Thanks for joining us on TuesdayLive tonight. Okay, gentlemen, let's set the ball rolling. Peace and unity in the country. At what point did we get it wrong? Let me start with you, Professor.
Well, I don't think we have gotten it wrong. If there are agitations here and there, and if there are complaints of one kind or another, I see it as part of the necessary building blocks of nation building. No nation is perfect at the beginning. There can be a vision for the nation. We can trip off along the path of building a nation. It is therefore my view that the recent happenings, if they are carried out in civil, peaceful, moderated, acceptable language, it is to be expected that when you have diverse people making up a federation, each having its aspirations and wishes, there is bound to be some tension in agitations are expressed. So my view is that if you're referring to some of the events of the recent past, I don't think we have really, the wheels are yet off the ground, so to speak. Yes, some do not moderate the language they use, and such use of intemperate, inciting, hateful language can and do irritate, and they can lead to very, very unpleasant consequences. So I think we have not gotten it wrong, but it is part of the process of a nation building. How you manage it is what is key to the whole developments.
Okay, let me do a jigsaw here. Let me come straight to Bishop Emerson. He says we did not get it wrong. Are you of the same view?
I'm sure Nigerians are watching us, and they will be the ones to judge if our nation has gotten it wrong. I think what Prof is trying to tell us is that we are heading towards the right direction. A car may be moving, but going through the gallops does not mean it's not shaking. The shakings does not mean the car should stop or the passengers should disembark. A lot of things going on in the country, especially ethnic misrepresentations of each other's views. I think also we can see political handwriting behind even all the ethnic agitations, and this is why some of us who are opinion holders, like Prof said, should mind our languages, because much more like we desire something, we should not trample on somebody else's right, because my right should stop where your right begins. And Nigerians should know that if everybody is angry in a house at the same time, it's a pandemonium. Like I told a friend of mine before I came here, even if everybody wants to fight, at the end of fight, where do we end? Peace. Look at all the nations who've been through problems. You will still go back to the round table to discuss. So I keep wondering, why not we start from where we should start and not go to that extent? Because God forbid anything happen, everybody is going to pay the supreme price. Both the person that agitated, the person that insinuated is going to pay the same price. The sponsors are themselves going to be victims of any casualty that goes on in any nation. It doesn't have to be Nigeria. I mean, we were watching some clips of the last civil war. It's very frightening, and nobody wants to go into that level of anarchy and bloodshed in any nation, not to talk of Nigeria, and God forbid.
Okay, if you throw a bomb in the marketplace, the bomb does not know which political party you belong, which religion you belong, which tribe you belong. And he has said, we are not wrong. He has said, we are heading towards a better direction. What's your opinion?
Well, to me, the majority actually has gotten it right, while very few got it wrong. Maybe the language may be actually different, meaning the same thing in other way. Why I say the majority got it right is that the majority of Nigerians are not of the view of putting this nation into violence and crisis. Majority, from whichsoever angle you are discussing, either from the north or the south, or whatsoever angle of the country, the majority of Nigerians got it right. Very, very few, to me, they got it wrong. And they need to be enlightened, they need to be informed, they need to be corrected, they need diplomacy. And in fact, they need to be dialogued with, because as the professor has said earlier, it is natural in human beings that if you disagree with others, the best way to go into is to reconcile and to dialogue and to discuss. It is not an offense for you to feel actually offended. It's not an offense to feel actually justice is not done to you. It's not an offense to have a different dimension of understanding or view, but you must be diplomatic in the approach. So to me, I believe that some people have gotten it wrong, even though they are very few.
Okay, let's go to the Garden City, Port Harcourt. Chief Ahamba, you have heard what the panelists are saying over here. What's your view?
Well, I believe that we have got it wrong.
Okay, I believe he's not here. No, if the audio is put right, we'll get back to Port Harcourt. But quickly, let's get back to Abuja now. So with all the views we have put forward now, what can we do as individuals, talking about Nigerians now, to bring about lasting peace as a country? Let me start with the religious leaders. I'm happy that we have the Christian and Islamic faith here. Let me start with you, Bishop. As individuals.
As individuals, Nigerians should wake up to their responsibilities of nation building. There is a lot of passing the buck to authorities and government. I'm not denying that government do not owe us that right of leading us right. But Nigerians should wake up by building blocks, blocks of relationship, intermarriages, blocks of religious interfellowships, and possibly blocks of economy. People should feel free to go into places that are not their tribes, to resident and do business and thrive. I'm one of those that believe that we should knock off this thing called state of origin from our forms we are filling. People should. I stay in Calabar, Cross River State. I am from Akwa Ibom State, and I've stayed there, and all my children were born there. And are you telling me that I'm not an indigene? It's very painful if anybody says I'm not an indigene. So we should knock off this thing called state of origin, and possibly we should knock off those things that divide us in a moment like this in Nigeria, and begin to magnify those things that will unite us. How contributive and participative are we to national development? We should not be judged by the language we speak and by the tribe we come from. We should look at each other by the level of relevance to economic development, to the Nigerian project. To me, that is one of the things Nigerians should begin to contribute to the nation in building bridges. I think the government can encourage more of intertribal marriages, like we did the NYC. I serve in Edo State. Now it was called Bendel State. I cannot tell you that I don't feel at home when I'm in Benin City. It's awesome. It's wonderful. My wife, she's from Akwa Ibom. Mother is River State. She served in Bauchi, Azare. And so you can see when she's going to Bauchi State, my wife feels at home. So like we did to NYC, we can do it and promote things that will build blocks across the nation.
Okay.
Well, I
believe by the time you're done, if Port Harcourt is to get to Port Harcourt before we get to
okay. Thank you so much. You see, I agree with the last speaker, and of course he has mentioned some solutions to the problems. But I believe that we need to get it right, that there are really problems, which of course, if not handled diplomatically, that may escalate to some other problems that we are witnessing today and more. You see, there must be justice. Any nation that actually is not a just nation, and especially when the leadership is not just to the subject, then automatically there is going to be problem and crisis. So to me, we need to look into the issue of justice critically, and not only condemning those who may be calling for this and that. We should look inward and see how best we can be just to this nation. Corruption in this country actually is rampant and is killing the nation, and is among the reasons why some individuals will feel that justice is not done to them, even though it may not have been done to others, but they may agitate for their own and then call for it, and not knowing that everybody is affected negatively. So I believe discussing this issue of justice will solve a number of what is happening today in the country. Okay. Secondly, Nigerians should see themselves actually as a nation. Allah the Most High, the creator of all creations, created them in this country. They have no any other country more than this. They cannot go to Ghana and claim citizenship there. They cannot go to any other part of the world. This is where Allah has created them, and they should see themselves as a family as regard to being in one nation. The Quran emphasized that, and in fact the emphasis is not on only being a Muslim, but it's talking generally of humanity. Allah says, Ya ayyuhan nas. This is referring to mankind, not Muslim, Christian, Jew. Ya ayyuhan nasu inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ إِنَّ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. O you mankind, we have created you into male and female, and we have made you into tribes and nations. Nobody can deny that we are into male and female, and we are into tribes and nations. But the best of you is not the one that claims to be the best. The best of you is known by your creator. And that's why Quran cautions you making a hateful speech to another person. Moderate your language when you are talking to another person. That's why Allah says, لا يسخر قوم من قوم عسى أن يكونوا خيرا منهم. Never you utter a word of underrating another community because you are not from that community. That community may be better than you in the sight of your Creator. And that's why Allah says, وَقُولُوا لِلنَّاسِ حُسْنًا. When you talk to mankind, not your tribal man, not somebody from your religion, when you talk to mankind, because nas means generality of humanity. وَقُولُوا لِلنَّاسِ حُسْنًا. Talk to mankind in a very polite, disciplined, respectful manner. And you see, these speeches has impact. When you talk wrongly, when you talk actually to another person in a wrong manner, he will react also in that manner. And it may go into actually violence, it may go into crisis, it may go into so many difficulties that today we are witnessing. So I believe moderating our speeches actually will help a long way. But lastly, as regard to the situation in hand, we should try as much as possible to find solution that actually is diplomatic. We shouldn't be actually harsh in our approach in solving this problem.
Okay. You have been very emphatic about being diplomatic, being bold. We're happy we have a professor of law here, Professor Awalu, with us. You're a lawyer. I know when the laws were being crafted, maybe a lot of things were not put in place before now. Given the progression Nigeria has made to this level, are we saying there are not enough laws that will faithfully follow up and douse these tensions as they happen?
No, as a matter of fact, quite on the contrary. If you're referring to whether there are laws dealing with how to handle hate speech, of course, is a speech that you make to condemn the other on account of that other being what he is, not on account of what he has done wrong, but just because he is a Kanuri man and I am a thief, I condemn a Kanuri man because he's Kanuri, not because of what he has done, which is wrong or condemnable. Now, there are laws that deal with this. The problem, of course, in Nigeria is that our law enforcement capacity and propensity to deal with wrongs when they are committed is leaves much to be desired. Wrongs are committed, they are overlooked, they are treated lightly, or they are treated very belatedly, or in some cases you can even say they are treated selectively. Now, so there are existing laws. We need to be firm, fair, equal, prompt, and unbiased. Now, they have all said, and I think if I take a cue from the Imam here, some of these issues are not treated and dealt with finality by the force of law. The force of law actually should be a last resort. Some of these things are dealt with through education, through orientation, through the way brought about, through interpersonal relationships. So dealing with these issues is a matter that the need for law, the need for penalty, the need for some drastic way of calling somebody to order or a group to order cannot be ruled out, but there are things that you need to do before you get to that. Education. If what he has read out to us is taught, and I know it is the same with all religions, if it is taught in our churches, in our mosques, in our schools, we would be restrained from engaging in speeches that will flare up and cause disorder in society. So there will not be any need even for someone to be arraigned before a court of law. So some of these things, to answer you directly, is that there are laws, but dealing with them for efficacy and would be more through certain measures and interventions.
Because why I directed this question at you was, is that now if I commit and nothing happens, it's possible that Bishop may commit.
Yeah.
And if nothing happens to Bishop, Imam will commit.
Yeah.
And so that's where
that was why my response was that when the need for the long arm of the law to be applied, because there does arise the need. Some people will not be dissuaded from setting up a place on fire by nice appeals from the churches, from the mosques, from the elders. And when they do not listen to that, then you would have to apply the law to deal with them. I don't think we need to pass any new legislation. There would be laws of federal nature that exist dealing with hate speech. There are laws also in our penal individual states.
Hate speech, but disturbances generally.
Well, including disturbances. So what I'm saying, if some group of people or some individuals undertake, not necessarily by way of speech, but by actions.
Okay.
Now, there are laws. It depends on what they do.
Okay.
If you engage in arson, you go and burn a place of worship, a mosque or a church. The problem is not so much a Muslim burns a church or a Christian torches a mosque. It's a criminal activity undertaken by an individual, which should be addressed as a criminal activity, and the person properly arraigned and charged and tried seriously. What happens is, and it's not only now, historically we have tended to treat breaches of the law of the nature that can set up the nation on fire with levity. And we are not very serious about pursuing to deal with criminals. Okay. And we find palliatives.
There came a time,
yes,
we all grew up in environments, traditional environments. Before then, maybe before even bishop became a bishop or imam became an imam, and it took a lot of thoughts before a child, a youth, even a man or a group would think about violence. But it looks as though we do it with ease now. Is it possible we could go back to what it used to be and tie it hands side by side with modernity and we get it right?
Thank you. I was about to say that before your question comes. Level of violence increasing in our society is a sign of erosion of social values. Social studies, civic studies, moral studies that we used to have are no more existing in our curricula. If they do exist, they are not being emphasized. I think also this is where the role of family comes in. Most families have allowed the environment to train their children. And the Bible said, bring up a child in the way he should grow. When he grows up, he will not depart from it. So then also the way we were taught to respect neighbors too. I grew up in a family that if you have a visitor, we don't care which religion he came from or which tribe he came from. You were asked to respect the visitor, to value the visitor. In fact, the plates that the visitor will eat from was even better place than the one we ate from as children. I used to tell my father, I wish I was a visitor in this house. You know, do we still have those values, those intrinsic, natural, basic African human values? We're not talking even of religion here. We're talking of the common denominator that makes us human. Are we respecting ourselves? You know, because to the point that somebody can use a machete or a gun and hack down somebody. I used to ask people, would you like somebody to do that to your husband?
Never.
Would you like somebody to kill your first son? I mean, you are killing somebody's first son, you are killing somebody's husband, you are bombing somebody's brother. Would you like that to be done to you? Would you like to watch your mother being hacked to death, whatever is the excuse or the reason? You know, I was just looking at 1 John chapter 4, verse 20 in the Bible. It says, if a man say, I love God, and hate his brother, he is a liar. For he that loveth not his brother whom he has seen with his eyes does not love God whom he has not seen. 1 John 4:20. So we need to go back to the human conscience, the basic human conscience. The first religion is the conscience. The first preacher is the conscience. It's not even the bishop, it's not even the imam. What is your conscience telling you? Because you are, like the imam said, God created us. God is our father. Adam is our father. You know, we all came from Adam. So we need to return back to those basic human values. It's not taught in school. It can be taught by parents. Because when society grows up and the people become more technological, more restive, more, I don't want to say modern, because that is an archaic, naive, and way of doing things. People should then grow up not just to buy a car, build a house. We should grow up in the value of humanity, respecting life, the sanctity of life itself. That will control us as citizens of Nigeria.
Okay, just to inform Chief Michael Hamba that as soon as is fixed, we'll come to you. But I believe you're following the conversation from Port Harcourt. Now, he talked about the issue of morality, and most often some of these problems are caused by the elders. Someone somewhere said, actually, if you look at it critically, if you take out religion, Nigerians will move a lot. Maybe you make religion passive in the public domain, a lot will work. So how can we curtail religious extremism?
Well,
because that's part of the problem.
I may not agree that actually we should cut religion aside. It must be, because those actually who believe in the religion and they are actually doing all this act that we are condemning did not follow the teachings of the religion. So here we cannot in any way suspend the religion, because it is the religion that will moderate some of our excesses as regard to going beyond the limitations. For instance, in the Quran, and I know the same is in the Bible, Allah the creator of all says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي Adam. Even if you don't know the meaning, you know Adam is mentioned here. Allah says we have honored the children of Adam. All of them are honored. Being his children, the creator who created them has honored them. And he said, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. We have created man, we have shaped him in the best shape you can think of. Now, it is religion that is telling all this. Now, why it that we follow it, maybe some of the atrocities, some of the criminalities, some of the issues I have raised here couldn't have been done. It means it is not a religion per se, even if some people uses it. It means even if you suspend it, those people can still use other things. So it is not a problem, because if you are targeting that religion is the problem, then we have missed it also, we have got it wrong.
Because a school of thought says that if I take the two of you to a big auditorium now,
of course,
you have Christians,
yes,
you have Muslims,
yes,
and Prof speaks, and you speak,
yes,
and Bishop speaks.
yes.
Can you place where the influence will come more at that material time? Imagine Bishop speaks in a language the Christians understand,
yes,
and says, as we finish here, fight.
Yes.
And you speak from the same perspective. And Prof speaks from a neutral background, say don't. You see that 99% of the people in that hall will abide by your own, and that's the influence now. That's where I'm coming from.
Thank you very much. I agree with you on this note. But what I'm saying is that if pastor is saying what is in the Bible, he will never tell them to go and fight. And if Imam also is reading from the Quran, he can never tell them that. In fact, if you agree with me that 99 will follow Imam and pastor, it means our problem will be the Imam and the pastor, not the religion. Because they will understand him and obey him better than our father, the professor, who will be making the laws and talking the laws without quoting the verses. So it means now our problem is not the religion. Our problem is either those who are leading the religion are not actually understanding, or they have misconception, or the followers are being misled.
Okay. So don't dwell so much on religion.
Of course, we did not, but I'm trying to make it correct.
Before we cut off that, there's a cue here.
Okay.
Governor El Rufai of Kaduna State suggests monitoring preachers in our mosques and churches because of danger of fanatical preachers in our mosques and churches is getting it right.
Well,
do you want to be that? Let me leave you, man.
Yeah.
I'll come to you, Prof. Because it's a stunning issue here.
Let's flip the coin. Instead of you monitoring what you are not part of, why not empower the people preaching that gospel? Give them a degree of acceptability and participation in regulation, instead of you jumping into the muddy waters of what you don't understand. Because architects don't control Nigerian Bar Association, and the lawyers don't control the other organizations. How do you, as politician with the instrument of governance, jump into an area which is very strange to you? That's even going to inflame, going to cause more harm than good, because you going there, it's like me going to somebody's house to control his wife and the marriage and the children and determine how they behave. First of all, I've infringed into a territory I'm not familiar with. Instead of doing that, flip the coin, call religious leaders, because when government is doing program, what you hear is all traditional rulers meet. In those days, you used to hear my Lord spiritual and temporal. The spiritual leaders were recognized. I don't think government still has that protocol. My Lord spiritual and temporal, meaning the judges of the High Court, people of the legal profession, and people of the spiritual profession. So I think allow the religious leaders a degree of acceptability and bring them in and possibly tell them what you are going through, like he said. Then we know the bad eggs amongst us. We will certainly know the bad eggs amongst us, and you will not know the bad. Even if you stop preaching, regulate preaching, how will you know what we are standing for? So it's going to really cause confusion.
Yeah, okay. And if I may really add also, the statement attributed to the governor about monitoring religious preaching to detect and prevent hate speech or maybe misleading and religious incitement. Now, with the answer they have given, any system can be abused or can be put to good use. He would even say the same thing about monitoring political speeches and meetings, because people are incited to violence, not only by reference to religious preaching. People are incited to violence by appeals to ethnicity. Okay. People are incited to violence by appeals to political persuasion. Even sometimes people are incited to violence by the most flimsiest of excuses. Okay. So I think the religion is not the thing that if you remove out of the equation, everything will be okay. There are people who also undermine the system.
Let me just hold it. There's a caller.
Yes.
Hello. From Benin Kebi. Umar, hello. You're welcome to Tuesday Live.
The issue of Uniy Nigeria can be addressed in two ways, in my own opinion. Number one, the issue of indigenship and citizenship has to be addressed fairly. I would like to see a situation whereby all Nigerians are indigenous and all indigenous are Nigerians, so that we don't have any differences. That is one. Secondly, the issue of good governance. The issue of good governance. The militants from Niger Delta embraced the amnesty program introduced by late Musa Radu of blessed memory, not because he is from Katuna or because he is a Hausa man. No, it's simply because it addresses some of the challenges that they are agitating. So I wouldn't mind who is going to be the president of Federal Republic of Nigeria if some of my problems are going to be addressed. So the issue of good governance has to be there. May God continue to bless our country.
Thank you so much, Umar from Benin Kebbi. He raised what has already been discussed here. But I think let's veer off a bit while we still wait for signals from Port Harcourt so that we get the input from Chief Mike Ahamba. I believe as soon as they are done with the signals from Port Harcourt, we'll get to Port Harcourt. Now, the other very influential platform or cluster that a good opinion poll say is responsible or influences issues of hate speech, bickering, disunity, the political class. How can we handle them? Let me start with you.
Yes, well, the way to handle them...
they are also very influential.
Oh, they are influential, and they're influential both for good and for bad. And in this case, they are very, very influential, but they have abandoned that role that what is all politics about is managing the affairs of society and dealing with problems that arise. Now, if you consider some of the problems we encounter, it is more engineered and more egged on by the politicians, the elites. The ordinary people go about their business unmindful of whether somebody in Sabongari market in Kano is buying a piece of cloth from somebody from Newi or from his own village in Kano. And at the same time, if somebody is buying a goat in a marketplace, he will not be looking for whether the person, the goat, is from Calabar or Ikwadekpene before he buys it. They deal, they interact, they are peaceful. The key to all this pulling and pushing is by the elites.
Well, we can't get signals to Port Harcourt from here, but somebody is calling in from Port Harcourt. Emeka from Port Harcourt. Hello, Emeka. If you can hear us, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Presenter. I think you are doing a good job by introducing this speech and what it is costing them. Like the pastor has said, if somebody is born in Nigeria, just like it is practiced in America, and you take notice of the type death certificate right there that he is born, and write out his name, no matter which tribe he comes, he becomes member of that state. That was the reason why the Bush family was able to produce their father and John Bush Jr. as the president from another state, and Jeb Bush contested in another state. And all of them were presidential materials, no matter how we look at that. They are from one family, no doubt about it. And the thing is that when you talk about hate speech in this country, hate speech emanated from our own head of state, who said during one of his campaigns that a Muslim should not vote for a Christian. And all those Today we don't know what impact that has caused our country. But unfortunately, the youth are not being carried along in what this country is happening. Everybody in his own thinking feels he is right. Old horses coming to destroy the new horses, telling us stories and grammar of what we do not even know. Today we are passing through something that everybody is just contributing. So one union against the other, one tribe against the other. Let me ask, for example, on what ground, after Gowon created 12 states, 6 for the north and 6 for the south, if this country now has 36 states of Abuja and 17 of the south and 19 of the north? Are we creating states, or we are creating states out of human endeavor and what can be achieved, or what people can contribute to the economy? These are so many things that when you look at, people are agreeing. Now today we have 3 major tribes in Nigeria. You see that those 3 major tribes are Hausa Fulani, as maybe a coinage, Yoruba and Igbo. Everybody of the south and southeast knows that, of course, we are called Igbo. But then, if there are appointments, just like having 3 people eat in a food, you eat 2, and now begin to share one with 2 persons. By that time, they are still cheating. So every man who is listening to what is causing this is feeling that there is marginalization and deliberate marginalization of the people in this country. And whether we like it or not, religion is not helping our country. Because I have heard the 2 panelists speaking about religion. The religious people are just trying to use this religion as a way of dividing the youth in whatever ramification of history. If your father is Muslim or your mother is Christian, it's not your choice. It is because of the way, the foundation that was laid for you. Anybody can choose any religion. You can decide to worship anything, but most importantly is that we are a citizen of the country. Every country has got instant patriotism. And we should teach our children patriotism and not division. This is what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emeka from Port Harcourt. Well, Emeka has spoken to issues of political imbalance, but we have sustained that here. But I stopped you before the phone call. Maybe you sustained that before I take
well, I think I've made the point that the problem is not with religion. The elite is not even with the ordinary people. Ordinary people live peacefully with one another, and they don't have a problem that you and I have. Is the politician, because that was your question. Is the political class, the elites, who should know better in their self-interest, would be able to, having the benefit of being educated and being in a political position, representative position, not to make a mess of things, because we should learn from the ordinary people. I think perhaps I just need to respond to the comment by the last speaker, Emeka from Port Harcourt. I wish he could give his time to Mike Ahamba so he will also participate in this discussion. But I think, you see, we oversimplify things. This country does not have Hausa, Fulani, Igbo, Yoruba. It has 345 or 49 more tribes, each and equally needing of attention and in its own right deserving of recognition and respect. When we just throw about these things about Hausa, Fulani, Yoruba, Igbo, we oversimplify things. It's our problems are problems of the elite who will construct these narratives of one section against the other, and it's difficult really to displace them from their narrative of Hausa, Fulani, Igbo, Yoruba.
So that it doesn't look as if Prof is taking the whole floor. But before I get to Bishop and Imam, let's take this call from Calabar, Matthew from Calabar. Matthew, you're on to Tuesday Live. Hello, Matthew. Okay, maybe we lost that call. Let's continue now. Let me recast the question this way now. What would be the role of politicians in promoting peaceful coexistence and unity as they command respect from their followers? One, from what Prof and other callers have said, it's about selfishness here. But we're talking about selflessness. How can we get that? Let me leave it to you.
Thank you so much. I was itching to say something after Emeka has spoken. First of all,
you can touch that briefly.
Yes. First of all, on Emeka, we need to forget past in this nation if we must go to the future of this nation. If we continue to deliberate on statements people made during political campaigns, there are a lot of such useless statements, and may God forgive our politicians. All of them, from all the divides, they say anything during campaign, but let me tell you, Emeka, at the end of that campaign, they embrace themselves. They won't tell you. They eat together. Look at the National Assembly. There's no religious divide. There's no ethnic divide. They're enjoying themselves together. Look at footballers. They play together. When Nigeria is playing South Africa or Zambia, they are together, like the Prof said. Politicians, I'm coming back to you, should know when elections end and when governance start. The problem with Nigeria is that election is conducted every day. Every day, even after somebody has been sworn in, he's still, in fact, the day he's sworn in, he's campaigning for the next 4 years, and he has not finished one day. So I get confused. In American politics, for instance, where you have developed democracies, as soon as elections are over, we are all United States of American citizens, and we get to work together. It's only in Nigeria, election has finished, people are still talking about elections. There should be an era of election. I think this is where INEC should come into the area of hate speeches. INEC should closely monitor politicians who make nefarious statements, obnoxious movements that would destabilize this country. And possibly some of those statements are quoted out of context, and they are picked from a whole long statement, and they are picked out of context to hype and to vibe and to excite.
So by way of regulating them, how can we?
I think I'm making a suggestion. Nigerian voters are more than Nigerian politicians. How many percentage are politicians? They are like 5% of the whole population. 5%. Good. So, but we are, funny enough, none of them die after election. It's we that die, the electorates. We are the one that die. We are the one that kill ourselves. We are the one that call ourselves by our tribal names and religious names. These politicians go into their air-conditioned offices and enjoy themselves. And I want to say, even those people that fought and killed people for them, they don't even have appointments. They don't even, they are not remembered. So next time a politician comes to you and said, go and kill somebody because he's from another tribe or another religion, let his first son go and be in front. You can join and be at the back. Let his first son, whom he has taken to London and drop some at Dubai and drop some in Saudi Arabia and Israel and America, let his children be in front. Any politician that wants you to go and fight, let his wife and children then go in front, then you can.
Let me get a perspective. But mind you, not all politicians do this. Not all of them.
Of course,
some.
Of course.
Okay.
Not all of them. To my own understanding, I believe there is a lot to be done as regard to our politicians. But more so, we...
sorry, but I mean, just a minute, please. Okay. There's a call from Bayelsa. Felix from Bayelsa. Hello, Felix. He's been waiting for long.
I'm still with you.
Go ahead, you're on to TuesdayLive.
I've been listening to the program for some time now. I'm calling Felix from Bayelsa State. I think that the National Assembly should emphasize on citizenship. Should make legislation for
hello?
From the law itself is a process. The law itself is improved.
Felix, go ahead.
With lawmaking. Hello?
We can hear you. Go ahead, please.
I said the law itself is a process that begins with lawmaking.
Okay.
Hello, are you getting me?
We can hear you. Go ahead, please.
And so the legislature should emphasize on making laws on citizenship.
Okay.
The legislature should emphasize on making laws on citizenship.
Are you done?
That is.
I'm afraid that we have lost that call, but he has made one point that the legislature should emphasize on making laws on citizenship. We're on the floor then.
Yes, I said earlier that politicians in this country are seeing politics as a business whereby, not all of them of course, you put in your resources and then after emerging, then you pay back what you have put in, getting ready for another one. They don't see it as a concept whereby you are coming to serve your community, you are coming to serve your nation. And I think here religion will play a very good role in reorienting their understanding. And when I'm saying this, most of our politicians are like that today in the country. And this is regardless of whether from the north or from the south or from the east or from the central. The misconception is across states, across religion, across each and individual. So we need to have that orientation to those who are politicians, that you are coming not to serve your pocket or yourself, but you are coming to serve this nation. As regard to we, who are the followers, we need to have a very strong orientation that we should cast our vote for those who are highly responsible. Because in much as they are having a problem, we have more problem than them. If you don't have much to do in this country, no matter how responsible you are, no matter how good you are going to fail even from your family. Don't be surprised that your son and your wife will not vote for you, because they will say, what do you even have? You see, we have turned it into business. The followers,
if we progress from where we are.
Of course. So it means it is not only the politicians that should be attacked. We too that are casting the vote actually need to get orientation clearly, because these people are investing, and we too agree that they are investing. So automatically they are going to actually take the gain.
Okay, we have established one point now, that in all this, consolidating peace and unity in Nigeria involves everybody. The politicians, the religious leaders, the traditionalists, everybody. Now, where will we get the meeting point? Now, we have talked about the fact that after elections, politicking continues. So where will we get the meeting point? Let me start with Bishop and go this way now.
I think one of the things we should do to improve our democratic process.
Everybody's guilty in this.
Yeah, let's assume
the bottom line is the unity. How do we get it? Where's the meeting point?
Yeah, we assume everybody's guilty, but the buck stops at leadership. The buck stops at leadership. If you go into position of responsibility, political position of responsibility, you must be ready to wake up at midnight and respond to an urgent call. First of all, I think we should have a means of monitoring manifestos. The country is the way it is today, not only because of corruption, but because of unfulfilled political manifestos during electioneering campaign. Let me tell you, for instance, somebody comes in this country, wants to go for any positions, whether in the Senate or House of Rep or House of Assembly or governorship, and makes statements, promising statements. At the end of his 4 years, no Nigerian in his constituency has been able to hold him to ransom and said, you told us you're going to give us roads and water and the light. Where is it? Nobody. Such question. There should be a forum for interaction and assessment of promises during elections. Because if our leaders are doing well in delivering their mandates, in making us to see the dividends of democracy, then the tension will be less. Tension of hunger, unemployment, and restiveness, agitations is from hungry head. If people are, let me use this example. I went to Cameroon. The head of state in Cameroon has been there for about maybe 80 years. So I asked them, the Cameroonians, what is the secret that you guys, there is not much noise? He said, we are happy. We eat very well. So it's not even about somebody going in for re-election.
But do they?
but there is enough. There is enough.
Let me use the opportunity to say the program is Tuesday Live and we're looking at consolidating peace and unity in Nigeria. We'll come back to you after we take a break now and we'll be right back.
Nigerians, our fearless officers and men of the Nigerian military are winning the war against Boko Haram. Today, all occupied territories have been recovered and Boko Haram has been degraded. Our affected brothers and sisters are getting their lives back. However, they are now after you and me. In our mosques, churches, schools, motor parks, markets, entertainment centers, and public gatherings. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me. Nigeria, unite against terrorism.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
The struggle for independence had been a long and tough one. Our founding fathers and compatriots sacrificed their comfort and even shed their blood. We cannot at this point in history afford to spirit away their sacrifices for immediate but temporary gains of today. Let us emphasize what unites, not what divides us. Working for the unity of purpose with a stronger vision for a better tomorrow. NTA, growing with the nation.
Nigeria, the only country we can train with remarkable potentials to excel. Let us believe in ourselves and change our attitude for the sake of our country and generations unborn. Let us revive our cultural values, which are our essence as a nation. Let us renew the spirit of patriotism and hope, dear country. Do not take or give bribe. Be punctual always. No more African time. We can't expect to be global citizens and operate on African time. Join the queue. Insist that people are attended to on a first-come basis, no matter who they are or where they come from.
Nigeria, good people, great nation.
Make you report any crooked person, object or wakajube movement to police and security agent demo.
The security of our nation now work for all of us, so plus including me and you.
Nigeria, make we unite against terrorism. The Federal Minister of Information and Culture bring on this message.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Welcome back. The focus again on Tuesday Live tonight is consolidating peace and unity in Nigeria, and we try to make the program as interactive as possible. Let's go to the street and get the views of Nigerians.
If only we agree to do the right thing, that is to say, equity and justice.
And we have to do things that will not, affect one another. We have to cohabit. We have to know how to cohabit. So by so doing, we will have peace. The things about this social media, we have to say something about it. A lot of lies is being put at the social media, which is not good. And we are not supposed to follow that.
When there is peace, you see that businesses go very well. People do their businesses very well. People are at rest. People are not running up and down. If there is peace, even in the home, if there is peace, you sleep very well. But where there's no peace, you find out you are afraid of even going back to your home. You're afraid every time you are not at peace with yourself. You are afraid because you don't know whether you're to run or you're to stay.
Peace and security will bring about development. Development cannot be achieved if there is no peace.
So peace is generally about understanding, and that's just the key word. We are in one country, so we should stand together and we'll achieve a lot of things if we do so.
If we are sincere to ourselves, we should seek for things that are peaceful, even right from our individual lives, individual homes, families, to the community.
Just our leaders will be transparent in governance, I'm sure we will achieve a lot, especially in terms of peace. Then the second one, there is need of enlightenment.
If law enforcement institution can be strengthened and then ensure that social justice is manifested, we will have everlasting. Anybody that tramp on the law will know the repercussion.
Welcome back. I think a tweet came in from Ambassador Emmanuel Gabari. It says, we have missed it and consciously retrace our steps. We must also target the young ones to build patriotism. You on that? Can you just conclude on that?
Yeah, delivering on election promises. Very important in reducing national tension. And monitoring speeches during electioneering campaign. And I also suggest if there can be something the government can do to promote love speeches, not just abolish hate speeches. We should be able to give national awards to people, Nigerians who have done things to promote coexistence. You cannot tell me don't urinate here if you have not where I should urinate. Okay, we ban hate speeches. It's over, nobody does hate speeches. What are we going to do to motivate, to encourage Nigerians who are building bridges across this nation? They should be recognized. By the time 2 or 3 Nigerians are recognized for bringing unity, for promoting intertribal cooperations, and for increasing the rate of patriotism, you would see that they'll become model for the next generation. Because our children are watching this generation and they are wondering, is what we say, we are their parents and their role models, is what we say that they will follow.
Okay. From the tweet,
yes,
it's tied to what the Bishop is saying.
You see,
the young ones, targeting the young ones.
Yes. You see, the issue of young ones coming into reformation as regard to politics of this nation, I think we need to emphasize on individuals who are ideal to be in the corridor of power. Let me give you an example. Now, in Kano, for instance, let's assume Professor refused actually to come out for campaign. And people knows Professor to be ideal, righteous, committed, dedicated. He will serve his nation. Then the youth there should rally him round and then vote him into power.
What if he says no? Must it be by force?
Of course, if he refuses, let's assume, we will get people like him who are actually aged, who are ideal, who actually want to make reformations. And I'm quite sure he will not refuse. Now, he may not have even the money to campaign. He may not have the talks. We are using talks also to cause confusion in politics. Now, if it is the youth now that rally him round and voted him into power, they will be able to force him to follow the campaign promises and the manifesto as said by the pastor. But where somebody actually who sees it as a business, and we the followers to agree to give us sack of rice, give us this, give us, and we collected. And we know this money actually is part of what he bought from himself, and he must pay back. I think we are going to go a long way without making actually progress. So it is high time now that we give orientation to the nation that please vote people who are responsible into power, even if they don't have anything. And I'm quite sure if a state will start that, and they notice that that state actually is functioning, is progressive, then others will follow suit.
Okay. Midway what the two religious leaders have said, Prof, is the fact that government has consciously informed Nigerians that we are giving the younger ones a level playing field, a greater space, in line with even one vision 2063 of the AU says, giving young Africans, young Nigerians a place. But he talked about allowing people like you to run, maybe because of wisdom. But there's a group that's talking about not too young to run.
Yes. The comment that we received, I think, is well placed. If you look at the statistics of the young ones, those who are between
Can
the
I
age
please
of...
take this call from Kabiru, calling from Providence. Hello, Kabiru.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I just want to contribute.
Go ahead.
The problem is that about our politicians, and then we have always been blind in love. I just want to contribute.
Could you please turn down the volume of your television set, or wait, have no option? Turn down the volume of your set, please. I'm afraid we'll discontinue with that call, please. Go ahead.
So I was saying that if you look at the demographics in Nigeria, those, I don't know for sure the numbers, but the largest portion of our population is not those of us who are from 35, 40 and above, but from the age of majority 18 to about 35. This is the bulk of our people, and the youth, they are unemployed, they are not well educated, they do not have the benefit of what I had when I went to school, public school, elementary school. They are not taken good care of health-wise. And when it comes to even grooming them for succession, if you don't have these other qualities, not good education, not healthy, and the system, the politicians, there is no internal democracy, there is no conscious attempt to mentor people who would succeed you. We are doomed. And that's why one would, if you're talking about the youth, you have to recognize that these are the people that we need to train, to mentor, to prepare for leadership, because it cannot be business as usual that you finish being the governor of your state and then you move on to Senate. And then you have been House of Reps, Governor, Senate, and then when you go to Senate, you are there for 16, 20 years.
Okay.
And
let me just hold you. Let's take this call from Dahiru in Abuja. Hello, Dahiru.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Welcome to Tuesday Live.
Yeah, thank you. Mine is just to commend the presenter as well as the guest on the screen.
Thank you.
I'm actually happy to, be attending, to be having this kind of program on this noble station, because it really enlightens Nigerians on the need to have a political coexistence among citizens of the country. I really appreciate and commend the entire panelists and the presenter. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, so I was just saying that you need to mentor, you need to train, you need to have the youth succeed and provide employment. Some of the things that happen, some of the bad things that happen are on account of the youth unemployed, unemployable, and they just, the devil, they said, an idle mind is the devil's workshop. That's why the politicians, we give them small token money to make noise for them, to go to elect them, to create mayhem. Key to our success in building for peace and sustaining it would be to pay attention to this segment of our society. Of course, we have already referred to the issue of educating them and doing the right thing and putting them through to know the good qualities and the good values, because we can't continue the way we are. Okay. Ultimately, we're going to leave the scene for them. And if you don't train, if you don't have succession plans that takes into account this demography, you have a problem on your hand.
Okay. Let's take this call from Calabar by Salim. Hello, Salim.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Welcome to Tuesday Live.
Please, I would like to contribute a little inside your discussion.
Go ahead, please.
Please, the problem we are having in this country, our imams and pastors, they have something to do a little while, that is, they have something to do a lot for our people, because there's no way you can now, a leader that he doesn't know the word of God, like in the Quran or in the Bible, now is your leader. Now is the role of our imams and our pastors to be telling them truth, because whoever will lead you without enough knowledge of God to lead you, so you know there are some failures. That's what I can say, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Now, he has made a point I was almost going to. Bishop Emerson and Imam Tajuddin, you have a lot of influence. Is it possible you could also look at the kind of messaging we put in at the mosque, in churches, and by way of maybe reaching out to others who play the role you play? What message will you give them? Because all this also revolves around you. Let me start with you.
Yes, actually, as Bishop has rightly said too, which I concur with him, that religious leaders have a role to play because they are influential in the society. They may not have money, they may not have position, but because people believe in God and they believe in them, they have impact in the society. But let me add here before going that these politicians have been discussing are more influential when the power of leadership is given to them, because they have the right to fire, they have the right to jail, they have the right to punish, while the imam and the bishop can only convince you through actually his wisdom based on the verses he has.
And that's the point Salim is making for
Calabar. Of course.
Let me reiterate his message. It says, what will the religious leaders do to politicians who didn't know God either way and they are elected into office? How do you reach them to reorientate them, maybe to follow? That's the message.
Of course, I'm coming to that really. Yes, they have a role to play because as religious leaders, people respect them and they listen to them. The imam and the bishop and the pastors supposed to create a forum.
Sorry, let's quickly take this call from Kano. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, welcome to Tuesday Live.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, this is Siva from Kano.
Go ahead.
Yeah. From my own point of view, the way I perceive these things is all these problems that afflict our country is as a result of the political system we operate. This is my own mindset. Because our politicians, in most cases, are the ones who cause this problem because of the amount of money we generate in the system. Because that is why they have made the system a do-or-die affair. People are dying in order to get into political office. For that reason, they can do whatever things at their disposal in order to achieve their political ambition. If our political system is the way it is, the issue of peace and unity in Nigeria, honestly speaking, will remain in us because our politicians will not allow the system to go well. My advice is, if we can do one thing, that we can reduce the amount of money in our politics, that will give the opportunity to responsible people who have their country into their mind to come and serve the nation. But when it comes to the issue of election, people will use a very large sum of money in order to get there. And on the process, they will do whatever they can in order to achieve their ends. So my own point of view, as I said earlier on, is we have to look very seriously in the system in which we operate in Nigeria, because it is the all the troubles, all the problems we face in Nigeria. As Professor said, the masses, they don't have problem among themselves. The Hausa from Kano, the Igbo from Enugu, or a Calabarman from Calabar. They don't have problems. But the problem is centered around our elite because they are trying to get to get to annex political power. So please, Nigeria needs to revisit the political system we operate in order to make Nigeria a very peaceful place for its citizens.
Thank you so much.
As I said earlier on, if we want to achieve peace, if we want to have unity in Nigeria, we have to make sure that the system we operate in Nigeria, our elite will look into these things. This is the contribution that I'm trying to make.
Thank you so much here from Kano. And I must say that we commend the patience of Chief Mike Ahamba, who is watching this program patiently, despite the challenge we have with the audio system from Port Harcourt. We commend you, and we are following the program, but we would really love to hear from you. Well done, Chief. Well, you are on the floor.
Yes, sir. Yes, you see,
but at least, most important is that the caller from Kano made a valid point, which we have sustained
of course,
while we're discussing
here. Of course. Okay. As I was saying, that the imams and the bishops and pastors have roles to play. They have role to play even in our schools. So that right from when you are in school, you should be informed that this responsibility of being a leader is actually having a consequence if you do not deliver it as actually is expected of you. Now, as they are growing too, and they are now in corridor of leadership, in our sermons in the mosque and in the churches, there should be emphasis on how leadership should be, because whosoever is opportune to be a leader, he should know on the day of judgment he's going to account for how he led. If you lead a state which is having 2 million or 3 million, or you lead a country like Nigeria which is having over 180 million, then you are going to be asked of each and everyone's right in that country. So it's not an easy one. It is actually a burden that is big. Now, they should be informed also of the reward. If you are able to serve them well, then your position there is going to be great. Now, this is not enough because most of the leaders doesn't have time to come to mosque in time to listen. If there is any of preaching between, let's assume, this prayer and this prayer, if you look around at the mosque, hardly will you see any influential. Well, of course, I cannot judge for the church, but of the mosque, I can tell you that majority of them doesn't have the time.
So what will you do to resolve this? That's what the caller emphasized on.
Well, there should be a forum.
Okay.
At least leaders should actually respect the mosque and be there in time, especially on Fridays, so that they will listen to the Friday sermons. Okay. Now, let's assume, you know, you cannot actually force them. That is not possible. There should be a forum whereby the imams and the leaders are meeting.
I want us to go a leg round for a round up. Let me hold you there.
Okay.
What's your thought on that?
Yeah, the Imam was making a very strong point on our influence on the people we put up to leadership. I have three things to say here. One, pastors and imams, when these people going for elective offices come to you, tell them the truth before they wear that cap. Tell them the raw truth that day. Because when these politicians come for prayer, they are very humble. They are very humble. If you tell them lie down, they will lie down. Jump, they will jump. Say Allah, they will say Allah. Say Jesus, they say Jesus. But when they enter the office, that is the key now. And I think most people you see carrying Quran to swear, they don't go to mosque. Most people you see carrying Bible to take oath of office, they don't. How many of them go to churches? They just carry that. Their Bible is in the court or is in the parliament where they carry. So, and finally, I think we should monitor pastors and religious leaders and imams should monitor those they have prayed for and put up into appointed and elected offices. Maybe if we can follow them up in terms of, excuse me, you came for prayer to be made a senator, to be made a governor, are you still living up to your oath of office? Because you use the Bible to take that oath and you use the Quran to take that oath. So we should be able to monitor them and follow them up and question them. We should not be blinded by their gifts. We should not be blinded by them. And most politicians should not change their phone number when they win election. Because most of them, the phone number they gave you when they came for prayer is not the same phone number they will use when the largesse of the office are sprawling around them. Okay. So I think that is one of the key problems.
Okay, quickly, a caller called in and he sustained the argument that part of the problem is that political positions appear to be very lucrative. That's why people are falling head over heels. How can this be handled?
Well, the way to handle is that political offices are lucrative not because the rules of the game allow it, and not because also the principle of democracy and service to community allow it. It is because they abuse their office, they misuse the rules, and the way to check it, there are quite a number of ways. Okay. First of all, conscious efforts by all men and women of goodwill to ensure that those who would serve the people and hold the political office in trust are the ones who are nominated, who are elected. It will go a long way. This is rather, you may say, a wishful thinking, but I think if we put it in our mind that we will elect, we nominate and process and ensure that those who will serve the community with the public good at their heart, it will make a lot of difference. Secondly, we should hold them to account. Now there are 2 or 3 ways of holding politicians to account. There is the political accounting that you can make them to live up to. If they misbehave, when the opportunity comes, you must be able, as an elector or a collection of electors, to turn them away, to not return them. And so this is political accounting. Now the financial and the resource accounting is also the fact that we tend to glamorize these ill-gotten wealth that the politicians make in office by fair or foul means, more or less by foul means. We follow them, we lick their boots. We should be able to, as a society, as a community, to hold them to account such that ill-gotten wealth is not enjoyed, is not glamorized, but when it comes to holding them to account, try them, ask them to account for what they have made, and don't go baking them.
Okay.
Four things.
Time is rolling out, and but the message here and what we have been able to highlight from the calls, from the tweets, encapsulates the fact that everybody is like a recipe now that will give us soup.
Yes.
It has been proven that the politicians, religious leaders, Nigerians, the governance process, all put together, if everything is mainstreamed and streamlined properly, then we can achieve true peace and unity in Nigeria.
Yes.
So, by way of a last word on this program, let me start with Bishop M.I. Song. Talk to Nigerians generally across the platforms. Which way forward?
Break down the middle walls of partition. Do not see anybody in the light, in the perspective of his tribe or religion or his language or culture. Number two, there should be interfacing of states, especially neighboring states. I saw something recently. Akwa Ibom State Legislature collaborated with Cross River State Legislature and held one session. I've never seen it. I watch it on TV. I'm like, wow. I think this should be suggested. There should be collaborations and relationships across states. Most states are just geographic. They are not relating. They are not interacting. The next thing you hear is boundary disputes, people killing themselves within the villages. Because when the level of cooperative activities are not intensified, then of course divisive tendencies will come in between states. Abia and Imo should be interacting more. Cross River, Akwa Ibom, Kaduna and Katsina, of course, many of these states, to avoid boundary tensions. You see, what governors do, for instance, with all respect to all our governors, they meet as governors forum and they take photographs, but their citizens are not relating. Their states are not interfacing. And the activities of trade and commerce are not flowing in and out of those states. Okay. So what we see on photograph is the governors coming together and taking photographs that we are governors of the south, governors of the north, but their citizens that have no common. In fact, let me suggest here, why not we, like we have ambassadors of some countries in another country, we can have ambassadors of some states in other states. Okay. Yes, we can have the ambassador of Lagos State in Ogun State. I don't know what name you call it, but there should be some relationships.
All towards building peace.
Towards building this peace.
Let me quickly take this call from, is it Lagos? Hello?
Hello?
Gospel, you're on to TuesdayLive. Quickly.
Yes, good evening. Good evening, it's Omini.
Good evening, go ahead please.
Okay. Without wasting time, I know the program has really lasted for a very long time, so it won't be rounding up by now. I want to commend the professor.
Go ahead.
I want to commend the professor. He has really said a lot of things, and though we have the name of God there, we all know that the Nigerian states or the policies or the laws that govern or that empowers politicians, it doesn't actually come from the religious setting. So there are laws, there are constitutions, there are things that guide the politicians' actions. So the professor said that in Nigeria, majority of the population Nigeria are youth, and there is no program to actually educate these youths, put their minds right, make them to be patriotic, engage them in something to do. They are always available for anybody to use them, for anything. And if you look at all the places that are burning houses, burning churches, burning things and that, all the girls, it is the youth. It's not the older persons that do all these things. And the politicians use them. So what should be done, in my opinion, is to see a way of actually extending a kind of arm to reach out to these youth and put something in place that will help them. to acquire skills, do something with their lives, go to school. Doing politicians, their children go to school, they send their children to school abroad and other places. But these teenagers, they don't have anybody. Most of them don't have anybody to help them. Okay, so we should put something in place to help these number of persons, this larger percentage of our population, which is the youth. They are the most vulnerable. They are the ones that are being, they are the ones that will not even hear the imam or the bishop. Okay? So I think this is just my take on this. I don't want to go into other things. Other things I wanted to say has already been said. So I just want to commend the professor. There are 11 issues that he has brought about. So he has said there. And also, they should look for a way to make these political posts unattractive. It is too attractive. And that's why people invest everything and make sure that they win by all means. This is not supposed to be so. Thank you.
Thank you, Boss Will. And the tweet is there, if I can see it clearly, coming from Olusegun Otunuga. It says, not until our people know that a politician will not use his own money to do sweet talk at campaign time and deny us our peace at the long run. Well, did you conclude? Should I move to Imam?
Yeah, I think the only thing I can do a comment on that.
Quickly.
Yes. I suggested monitoring. If we are fighting hate speeches, we must monitor election speeches at all times. INEC should put that under their schedule of influence and said, politicians, you go into the field to talk to the people, because we, the religious leaders, we will talk in churches and mosques, but we don't know what these people go out to hear in the field. So INEC should be given that responsibility to monitor speeches, so that, like the last tweet said, you don't use your money and come and mess up the country for us to begin to clean up.
Okay. Imam.
Yes, actually, for us to progress as regard to peace and unity of this nation, we must actually have orientation, especially for the youth. Right from the primary school to the secondary school and tertiary institutions, we should have a program that will be enlightening the youth that this nation, for it to be great, we need actually to be responsible. And of course, the issue of corruption must be emphasized, because it's causing a lot of damages that at times we may not know directly, but it's indirectly behind some of the happenings. Now, not only in the institutions, but in our mosque and our churches, there should be emphasis on this. And the impact will be more in our religious institutions if the imams and the pastors abide with what they are saying, because this is an angle where it's not touched, that you find out that even some imams actually need to have orientation that they are now representing the religion. They will be found wanting to the extent that they are also counted among those who are corrupt and even more dangerous than some of the politicians. And this is also there in the country, where some individuals who are imams, well, I cannot say much of the pastors,
same thing.
that they will go behind the screen and be healing these people who are criminals after knowing that they are criminals. Now, this actually must look into properly, and the imams should check the excesses of their imams, while the pastor also should check the excesses of that line, because it will go a long way in sanitizing and reforming the nation. But not only that, our ministries, there should be also an orientation in ministries and states and local governments that, look, this nation, we want it to be great, and these are the things we should focus on, and these are the things we should not do. Like going to kill, we have reached a level whereby some politicians can send some talks to go and kill somebody just because he wants to emerge on that position. Now, there should be orientation all around. Why am I saying orientation? Because it will make actually some people to come back to their senses, because a human being by his nature, he knows what is right, and most of the time he knows what is wrong, but he needs to be reminded. فَذَكِّرْ فَإِنَّ الذِّكْرَ تَنْفَعُ. remind them, even though they know. Keep on reminding, keep on reminding. You shouldn't be tired of reorienting until when things actually are set right.
I'll still come back to the two of you. Prof.
Yes. Well, I think you can't say too much about engaging the youth, making life meaningful, taking them to be part of, to feel they have a stake in the system. If you provide employment, if you give good education, if you take care of the needs of the youth in many other respects, uniquely their needs, you're going to cultivate a spirit and an environment that is conducive to peaceful coexistence. If you exclude them and you don't take their needs, no amount of preaching, I don't mean to undermine preaching,
yes, of course,
would dissuade them. So you need to attend to that. Secondly, we should not be creating more walls that divide us, but we should be creating more bridges that unite us. Now, the has spoken of those good things in the life of this nation that have gone a long way in cultivating a spirit of understanding, togetherness in our society. Okay. If he speaks about NYC, I know what he means, because when we did our NYC, it meant a lot how I would get to know the culture of other people, having lived with them, having interacted with them, and in an environment that is not mine. It makes a lot of sense. So those things really, activities, cultural exchanges that will bring on board the youth in particular to know that there are more things that unite us than divide us, it will help. Thirdly, I think it is unhelpful for some of the elders when we encounter the kind of problems we're encountering in this country to say for political ends that this nation is a fictitious coming together of people that is regrettable, and that they have the past nostalgia of the past, and they would want to condemn everything. Okay. Now, you're giving the wrong message to the youth. No nation is perfected in its march to become a nation for everybody overnight.
Thank you so much, Prof.
So you need to make it work, and not to say that it was a mistake. Well, if an elder statesman said it's a mistake, well, what do you expect the youth who is unemployed, who has no stake in the system? He says, well, everybody should go his own way.
Okay. Well, let's take this tweet from Ibrahim Garba. It says, not until, he's now speaking to the minds of Nigerians, including all of us here, not until you vote upright leaders, peace will be a mirage. An upright leader will fear God. That's his tweet from Ibrahim Garba.
It's a very apt one.
But before we conclude, let's quickly take these few minutes and take another contribution from Nigerians on the streets.
Well, it's relative. It's relative. If you think we have problem, you compare us to some African countries, then you'll thank God you're a Nigerian. But certainly we can do better. And even the so-called lack of peace, apart from the Boko Haram insurgency, it's not really serious. The cattle herders and farmers, this you can tame easily. You know, we have to change our way of thinking.
The way we can achieve this peace is for there should be equality of rights. People should be given their due rights.
So sincerely speaking, we are very, very happy. We have to thank God that we had leaders from the beginning of this country. These leaders sit down together, they disabuse their minds from religion, from tribe, whatever it is, even the gender. They abuse their mind from all these kind of things. They come together, they solve the problem of this country, and that's where we are now.
Productivity begets more productivity and begets employment. Lack of employment is the reason we are violent. We are violent because of lack of equity. And how does it manifest, this lack of equity? It manifests because there is too little to share among too many.
We can't have peace when we don't have justice. It's very vital. You know, you can have peace when there is no equal treatment. You can have peace when there is nepotism. It's not possible. You can't have peace when there is no, observance or adherence to federal character. Those are things that is causing peace. Now, with all due respect, I think all of us have to change.
When some people feel that they did not get what they wanted, and then they will make that issue as something that is the affair of each and every person. You find that many people, they are actually financing things that are going to bring insecurity because in order to achieve their own personal benefit.
Well, that's on that team of Nigerians contributing to this program. Yes. We are rounding off now, yes. And let me try to tie up this way. Prof, you be the mediator now. Okay. Let me try to do some kind of, in a few minutes, before I take the last tweet and we go. At the end of this program, those in authority are listening to us, and now they have heard the points put forward by Bishop Emerson. They have heard the point put forward by Dr. Tajuddin, and they say, okay, the two of you, will give you a challenge. Go around Nigeria and preach peace. And I want to put this question, and they say, okay, Tajuddin, you are the imam from the Islamic faith. You speak to Christians in Nigeria. Emerson, you are the bishop from the Christian faith. You speak to Muslims in Nigeria. I want to crisscross now. Yes. What will you be telling Christians in conclusion?
Well, I will tell them to be peaceful, actually. Of course, my influence in discussing with them will be less, because it will need me to have some backing of what they are convinced of, which is the Bible. So I think the role of bishop in talking to the Christians will be more. But my own role will be in relating with them maturely, diplomatically, as I was taught in the Quran, will have bigger influence in them. Because Rasulullah, the Prophet, has related with non-Muslim in a beautiful mode. In fact, he has even allowed them to stay in his mosque who are not Muslims. You know, the mosque is the highest level of honor a Muslim has. He allowed them to stay inside his mosque, and this will have influence in them. So I believe my talking to them may have meaning, but I think relating with them in the best way will be the best, because I may not be able to have some facts that will convince them. Like the bishop will have some facts to convince them, but bishop can relate with Muslims in a good way because the Bible taught him to relate with them in a good way. He mentioned in the discussion, he said we must treat our neighbors in actually the most honorable way. And the same thing in the Quran and the Sunnah. Rasulullah said, "Man kana yu'min billahi wal yawmil akhir falyukrim jarahu." Whosoever believe in Allah and His Prophet should respect and honor his neighbor.
Okay.
And you know, neighbor in Islam is houses that are from your side.
40 houses.
40 here, okay. 40 there, 40 here. I think the whole FCT will be your neighbor.
Okay. So let me take the thought of Bishop.
I will tell the Muslims, if you send me that, that
I imagine that happening
yes,
tomorrow.
The three religions that come from Abraham are Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. So I'll tell them that history. And number two, I will tell my Muslim brothers what I tell my Christian brothers. You do not kill to go to heaven. You don't kill to go to heaven. In fact, if you kill, you are a murderer, and you will not make heaven.
Okay.
By all standards, all federal laws, all religions, both Islam, Christianity, there is no provision for you to kill your brother to make heaven or make paradise. And I think, number three, I want to borrow this from what a Christian preacher told me. I asked him a question in Lagos. Why is there more religious tension in other part of the country than in the West, than in the Yoruba land? I asked this to a Yoruba pastor who was sitting with a Yoruba imam. He said, no. In Yoruba land, in the West, we consider ourselves, first of all, Yorubas before we consider ourselves as Muslim or Christians. He said that's why.
So in the larger picture, in conclusion, just in conclusion.
Yeah, first of all, we should see ourselves, first of all, as Nigerians before we then see ourselves as a Muslim or as a Christian. That should be the first way you see me before you then see me in the light of my belief. If that comes up in this country, that people are first treated as Nigerians before they are treated as Muslims or Christians, we are going to go further.
Thank you so much. Now, before I take on Prof and we conclude, this tweet from Fade Muyi, it says, we can't have peace when some people feel they are above the law. That's a tweet. Prof, in a few sentences.
Well, I agree with him.
On a few words.
But as to the question you put to them, I think they have both given a very eloquent response. Action speaks louder than voice. If you see representatives of the faith interacting together and also relating to their communities together, I wouldn't want to suggest the way it will be too artificial for me to send the bishop to Kano. But if I send him and the imam to Kano, it will make more impact than if I send them separately. And on a final note, really, I think what we do in our individual capacity as communities to make peace, to live together, would have far greater impact than what governments can do. I think governments have their own limitations too. But if we start things at individual level, at community, at interpersonal, you would see how wonderful we can construct a very peaceful
Thank you so much, Prof.
and supportive society.
I must quickly thank all of you, Professor Awalu Yadudu, Professor of Law and former Presidential Advisor. It was nice having your thought on Tuesday Live. Dr. M.I. Song, National Public Secretary of PFN. It was nice talking with you.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Tajuddin Mohammed Bello Adigun, he was our landlord here. It was nice talking with you. And we must thank Chief Mike Ahamba. Despite the challenge we had, he sat through the program. We saw you from here. We must commend you, but really unfortunately we could not get your thoughts. Thank you so much for being there all through. We commend your patience. Thank you so much, sir.
Great apologies too.
This whole journey started somewhere in 1914 with the amalgamation, and before independence, our founding fathers sustained one thing: we live together, and even when we are shrinking, we lift back Nigeria. I believe that is what we sustain throughout the program today. The message is all of us together. You don't do the blame game, but let's move on, and Nigeria will really become a great nation. On behalf of all of us, that's the wrap on Tuesday Live today. It was nice having your time. Bye-bye.